Welcome back. If you've just joined us, we're speaking to the four frontrunners in the upcoming Ikaroa Rawhiti by-election. The Maori party's Ngā Raihania, the Greens' Marama Davidson, the Mana party's Te Hamua Nikora and Meka Whaitiri from the Labour Party. So, what's the biggest issue facing Te Ikaroa Rawhiti and how will you individually tackle that? Let's start, Meka.
Jobs. There are no jobs in Ikaroa Rawhiti. This is why our people are leaving our shores to Australia, to the mines in Perth, because they can't find a decent job. Living wage, we're struggling. Those that are working are living close to the minimum wage or under it. Homes.
How do we create jobs up the coast and in the Hawke's Bay and in the Wairarapa?
Yeah. So under the Labour government, we are prepared, we're going to build 100,000 homes for our whānau. That means jobs that will be created, 2,000 apprenticeships, an injection in the economy of about $1.5 to $2 billion. These are going to be real jobs. A skilled workforce will be required, and that's what Labour's going to do. We're also going to drop power prices. Too many of our whānau are getting their powers disconnected because they can't pay it. So under Labour, we're going to reduce power.
Okay, Te Hamua, the biggest issue facing the people of Ikaroa Rawhiti that you're hearing on the streets?
Yeah, as I say, I'm living there at the moment. I have been for the last year. It's the fact that we don't have enough money flowing through anybody. So our Feed the Kids bill is all about making sure that the foundation of the house is set well. If you're looking after the tamariki, then they're going to grow into successful adults, and then that problem will fix itself.
The problem's been kind of fixed with the national solution, which kind of knocks your policy off at the knees, would you say? Or?
Well, if it would have knocked us off at the knees if it wasn't kind of fixed. If it was totally fixed, yes, but it's only kind of fixed.
What more do you want? What more do you think would...
well, basically, we're looking at... we don't think that sponsorship is enough, because after a certain time, sponsorship will run out. The companies that are putting into it will start thinking, well, actually, we need that dollar. We think that it needs to be more a responsibility of the government who are there to look after the people. It's their job to do so, not to get friends in to help them.
Some would say, though, that we're feeding the children through charities who are giving their money rather than using taxpayers' money.
I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, it's about fixing the foundation, and this is not just fixing the foundation for one family, this is to fix the foundation of a country. If you fix the floor, then the walls are going to stand, and then the roof is going to be able to stand. If you don't, everything's going to fall over. So whatever needs to be done, do it.
Kia ora. Marama, biggest issue facing the people of the Ikaroa Rawhiti?
Well, Te Hamua is right. The Feed the Kids is an essential start, because we must feed the kids so they're ready to learn, but it's not the only thing that we need to do. Inequality affects Te Tai Rawhiti and Ikaroa Rawhiti like the rest of the country. The Green Party has a clear advocacy path to keep he taonga te mukapuna right at the forefront. Some of those policies include a universal child payment, so we're not just giving it to our families who are in work, because that discriminates against the whānau who aren't working. Universal child payment, the nurses in schools was launched yesterday in Christchurch, and also definitely a living wage for the sustainable jobs for all of our whānau as well.
Ka pai. Nā?
Kia ora. I think it's important up front to say that a lot of the issues here we agree with, and we're doing something about it right now. Of course, education, of course jobs. Now, if we just focus on jobs in the last budget, we managed to prize out $47 million for apprenticeships. That helps the rangatahi in terms of getting the skill base required to apply for those jobs.
How many people are in apprenticeships though at the moment?
We've got spaces now for 3,000.
And
we've already started cadetships at Green Lakes in Turanganui-a-Kiwa. Tautane, the Kahungunu iwi, have purchased that farm, but Taratahi they've immediately asked Taratahi to come on board as a farm cadet scheme. So we're very interested in helping progress those issues there as well. We certainly agree with Feed the Kids. We think that it's a first step. It's not the end of the road. It's a first step. So while we continue to develop stuff, the initial problem is being addressed. But it's about families feeding themselves, and we have to take that step. The state should not be the parent. We don't believe that at all. And I also think it's important to put into context, my colleagues, the stuff they're talking about now, they can't introduce until or if they get into Parliament in 2014, which means 2015 before any of these or their policies. And no disrespect, I'm not dissing them at all. I'm just saying that that's the context with which the voters have to view the comments.
That's okay, because the Māori Party hasn't always been successful in introducing their policies, and if they do, it's often superficial policies which then National then takes away with something else. So that's okay that you say that.
I don't disagree that it's hard. It's absolutely as hard. That's why
we'll just keep on coming up with the brilliant ideas that other people introduce. that we came
so will we.
And we all know that to be an effective voice in Parliament, you've got to be at the decision-making table, which is Cabinet.
Which is exactly right, which is why the Māori Party are the only choice you can have on the 29th of May, on 29th of June, simply because on the 30th we'll be at the table.
So you'll be going with National again?
No, I'm saying in this by-election.
Right.
We're already at the table now making those crucial decisions.
Although the Green Party are the third biggest party, and so there's a lot of potential for our Māori to side with the party that will have some actual influence over the 2014
Okay,
government.
let's go to the most important policy of each individual party. Now I'll just go back the other way.
Yeah, sure.
What's your most important policy?
Oh, look, all of our policies are important because Māori are spread across the whole spectrum, not only in employment, education, all of them. But I know we're going to target whānau ora. Whānau ora is not a policy, it's a way of life. It's about restoring our tikanga, our values.
Tell me how whānau ora would work for a family of 5 in Wairarapa.
Oh, in the first instance, Wairarapa have a lot of issues down there that we need to address, and I'd like to do that separately. In fact, I'll be down at the block tomorrow night. Those people in Wairarapa will know where that is. So whānau ora is all around whānau taking responsibility for themselves with assistance from the government, from the providers. It's about ensuring that not every little organisation has their own little empire. It's about directing all of those monies, all of those attention to the family rather than taken up by accountants, by lawyers, all those sorts of things. So we're really streamlining the funding to get right down into the root of the problems.
Marama, the Green Party, what's their most prominent
I will
policy?
just put on the table that protecting and sustaining our environment for mokopuna is important, which is why when we talk about jobs, we need to talk about sustainable jobs that don't bully us into wrecking our environment. So actually we could be talking about local initiatives in Ikaroa Rawhiti.
Give us an example.
We could be talking about manuka products. We could be talking about renewable energies and transferring into biochemical and fuels. These are all things that our young people who are often out of work can start engaging in and building up a new innovative industry which also protects our environment.
But it's helpful if somebody is building the foundations for them or giving them, you know, the know-how to set up little
Absolutely, and the Green
and
Party would be interested in supporting all of the infrastructure and the funding into those very alternative industries. So.
Te Hamua, what's your policy? Not
wanting to be the man that rings the same bell because he thinks it sounds so lovely, but I'm going to ring the same bell. Feed the kids. Hone's bill for us is the big one. As I say, that's the foundation setter. Set the foundation for your house, the walls will stand and the roof will be there. If we look after our kids at that age, if we feed them in school, their brains are going to work. I'm doing motivational speaking for the last 3 years. The schools that I go to, I know the boy that hasn't had breakfast because he's not listening, and the two mates that he has on either side of him are missing out as well.
Feed the kids. Meka, quickly.
I've mentioned Kiwi Build, 100,000 homes for our whānau. I want to talk about raising the minimum wage from $13.75 to $15. This is what a Labour-led government will do. That will have a huge impact on our whānau.
All four of you, the railway from Napier to Gisborne, which this government's refusing to fix, it's only going to cost $4 million and then $8 million every year thereafter to run it. Is that something you'd all commit to if you won this seat?
Most definitely.
Absolutely.
Good. Tick there. Forestry, we just saw that story on forestry. Why 28 deaths over the last 5 years? Any solutions there?
That's really a tragedy. That's a tragedy that 28 have died in 5 years. I support the CTU's position on calling on an inquiry onto the forestry industry, but I want to profit up an innovative solution. We have Māori-owned, iwi-owned forest up Ikaroa Rawhiti. Just like the AFCO incident where we saw iwi come to the table to put pressure on tallies, I would actually suggest that we get iwi owners of forestry at the table, pull the industry in to help them protect our whānaus in the industry of forestry.
That's a very good suggestion. Te Hamua, when do you think that iwi has a place to play?
Well, I think the iwi has a place to play in everything in Ikaroa Rawhiti, whether it be the forestry to picking up rubbish on the road. But the problem with the forestry is that the guys there are having to work too hard for too long to get $1. So whoever's paying them per tree needs to put their price up, because they're doing longer hours and becoming tired, and then just human mistakes happen.
Marama.
It's not just up to iwi though. Government really needs to step up and regulate this profit over people business, but also if you listen to the whānau of Ken Callow, who was one of our recent who passed away, and to takahi on their mana at the time that they've lost their boy and then say it was his fault is clearly not good enough. This week, members of the whānau have contacted the Green Party to hold a meeting in Gisborne to look into those deaths. I would really want to make sure for a start that we're listening to whānau who have lost, and we're not just trampling all over them by saying it was their fault.
Nah. Have you got thoughts on the forestry industry?
Oh, absolutely have. I mean,
You've worked for workers' rights?
Yeah, absolutely. I mihi to the Epapara family, the Crawford family. They lost one of theirs up in Whaitiri Forest. And the Chaffees, Robin Chaffee was killed in the forestry, one of our boys, Batman. Look, it's clearly an issue around two things, I think, or might be a number of things, but certainly around the training. I'm a member of IPAN's Entry Prevention for New Zealand, and it's all around training for them. But I didn't just do that at the top table. I went home and asked the boys themselves where it's at. And interesting, the article on TV talked about drugs as well, being influencing.
Is that a big issue?
Oh, I think it is. It's got to stop. You're working with machinery. It's dangerous. You've got to be clear-headed into those sorts of areas. The training aspect for this
Can I just ask Hamua and Marama, is that more drug testing?
I'd like to really start with listening to the whānau and understanding what their concerns are about the safety of the industry as well. I don't want to leave it just the liable person is the person who passed away. It's got to be a bigger inquiry than that.
We have to leave it there. And I just want to say thank you very much for coming in, and we will catch up with you on the campaign trail in the next 2 weeks. All the best. Kia pai te haere.
Thank you.
And we've just received word that lawyer Michael Appleby has been selected as the Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party's candidate. And don't forget, Native Affairs will broadcast the special 1-hour candidates debate live from Gisborne on Monday the 24th of June.